Asking for what you want is something everyone does, but few people do it well. Most of us hesitate, second-guess ourselves, or hold back because we worry about being rejected or misunderstood. But the truth is, learning how to ask clearly and confidently can change everything. It opens doors, creates opportunities, and helps you get closer to the life you want. This is not about luck or chance, it's about skill, practice, and mindset. In this guide, you'll discover how to build the courage to ask directly, develop the belief that you deserve what you want, and learn exactly how to know what to ask for. You'll find practical ways to practice, asking daily so it becomes easier. Understand why silence is a powerful tool when making a request, and learn how to stay calm when facing rejection and keep asking with clarity. You'll also learn how to speak with confidence, align your actions with your asks, surround yourself with the right people, and track your progress to build trust in yourself. This isn't just theory. It's a step-by-step approach to help you grow stronger, more disciplined, and more confident every day. Imagine feeling steady in your voice, clear in your purpose, and sure in your worth. Imagine turning asking into a natural part of your life that brings results, rather than a source of fear. If you're ready to take control of your future and start getting what you truly want, this guide will show you how. Stay with me as we dive into the art of asking and unlock the power that's already inside you. Chapter 1. Master the courage to ask clearly and directly. Most people go through life afraid to ask for what they truly want, not because they don't know what to say, but because something deeper holds them back. Fear of judgment, fear of rejection, fear of appearing selfish, or even fear of not deserving what they ask for. These fears, though invisible, become powerful barriers. They convince people to shrink their needs, to settle for less, to wait in silence, hoping someone else will offer what they're afraid to claim. But life doesn't work that way. Life responds to clarity. Life rewards those who are bold enough to speak up, not arrogantly, but confidently and honestly. The ability to ask directly and clearly is not just a skill, it is a form of inner freedom. It is the first act of self-respect, and mastering this courage is the first step to unlocking everything you've ever wanted. Asking clearly is not just about the words. It starts long before you open your mouth. It begins with the decision to honor what you need, to value what you desire, and to stop making your voice smaller, to make others more comfortable. The courage to ask clearly and directly is about reclaiming your place in the world. It's about saying, I matter, my needs are valid, I have a right to take up space. That kind of courage isn't loud, it doesn't need to shout, but it does need to be built from the inside out. It needs a foundation of self-respect, honesty, and an understanding that the only way people will truly see you is if you show them who you are without apologizing. This kind of courage is simple, but it's not easy. You might have been taught that asking for what you want is selfish, that speaking up is rude, that needing something makes you weak. These beliefs were passed down, often unconsciously, from people who were taught the same thing. And the truth is, many people stay stuck in silence because they're afraid that asking will expose them to disappointment. But not asking guarantees disappointment. You don't lose anything by asking. You lose everything by never trying. Courage starts by noticing the moments when you feel yourself shrinking, when you want to speak up, but hold back, when you say it's fine even though it's not, when you agree just to avoid conflict. In those small moments, something powerful is happening. Your mind is choosing comfort over clarity. It's choosing temporary peace over long-term fulfillment. That choice becomes a habit, and that habit becomes your life. But when you start choosing courage, even in small ways, something changes. your confidence grows. Your self-trust deepens. You start realizing that being clear doesn't make you difficult, it makes you free. To ask clearly, you need to know what you're asking for, and you need to know why. Clarity without direction is noise. Direction without courage is hesitation. You need both. When you approach someone, whether it's a partner, a friend, a boss, or even yourself, what are you asking for? Are you asking for help, respect, time, space, love, opportunity, forgiveness, understanding? Be honest. Say what you mean. Don't hide behind vague language or hope they'll read between the lines. People are not mind readers, and the more clearly you speak, the more likely you are to be heard. Not everyone will say yes, but at least they'll see you. There's strength in being direct, not aggressive, not demanding, but direct. Say what you need without defending it. You don't have to over-explain your ask to make it valid. You don't have to convince others to approve of your needs. You just have to speak them. Being direct shows maturity. It shows self-awareness. It builds trust because people know where you stand, and it protects your energy because you stop wasting time on misunderstandings. When you speak directly, you give people the gift of clarity, and in return, you give yourself the gift of peace. But courage also means accepting the answer you get. Sometimes people won't respond the way you hoped. They might say no. They might ignore you. They might even criticize you. And that's okay. Their reaction doesn't define your worth. Your courage to ask isn't measured by the response. It's measured by the fact that you asked at all. You took a step most people never take. That step is a sign of strength. The more you practice it, the less afraid you become of the outcome. You start realizing that rejection is not the end. It's just part of the process. Every no brings you closer to a yes that actually fits. Real growth happens when you stop tying your self-worth to how people respond. It's natural to want approval. It's human to want people to say yes. But your value doesn't depend on whether others agree with your ask. Your value comes from knowing that what you asked for was honest, necessary, and true. That's integrity. And when you live with that kind of integrity, you stop chasing validation and start building confidence from within. The truth is, most people are waiting for permission to ask. They're waiting for the perfect moment. They're waiting to feel ready. But readiness is a myth. The moment never feels perfect. And the longer you wait, the harder it becomes. The only way to get good at asking is to do it. Over and over. In small ways. In daily life. Ask for clarity when you don't understand something. Ask for help when you're overwhelmed. Ask for space when you're drained. Ask for support when you feel alone. Each time you ask, you build the muscle, and that muscle becomes strength. Start with simple things. Speak up when your food order is wrong. Ask someone to repeat themselves if you didn't hear. Tell a friend you need time to recharge. These are not small acts. They are daily acts of courage. They teach your brain that it's safe to speak up, that your needs matter, that you don't have to shrink or wait for someone else to notice you. You can notice yourself. You can advocate for yourself. That's where real confidence comes from. Asking clearly also means being specific. Don't say, "I wish things were better." Say what better looks like. Don't say, "I need more support." Say exactly what support you need. Do you need someone to listen, to help you with a task, to give you feedback? Be clear. Specificity removes confusion. It prevents disappointment. and it increases your chances of getting what you truly want. Vague asks lead to vague outcomes. Clear asks lead to clear decisions. If you want something, you have to believe that it's okay to want it, that it's okay to go after it, that it's okay to say it out loud. This is not selfishness. This is honesty, and honesty is one of the highest forms of self-respect. The more honest you are about what you need, the more your life aligns with who you truly are. And when your inner truth matches your outer expression, peace becomes your default. You stop feeling torn. You stop pretending. You stop apologizing for being human. You will always face moments when asking feels uncomfortable, but discomfort is not danger. It's simply the feeling of growth, and growth requires effort. It requires intention. It requires pushing past fear, not with force but with calm clarity. The more you practice asking, the more you normalize it. What once felt scary becomes second nature. You begin to live without the burden of unspoken needs. You begin to move through life with a quiet confidence. You become someone who doesn't wait to be seen. You make yourself visible. There's dignity in knowing what you want and having the courage to pursue it. Life doesn't hand out rewards to the most deserving. It responds to those who show up, who speak up, who step forward. No one can give you what you won't ask for, and no one can read a truth you won't reveal. You must become your own advocate. That is the beginning of every transformation. That is the start of every breakthrough. Courage doesn't mean you're never afraid. It means you choose to act even when fear is present. You don't have to eliminate fear to ask clearly. You just have to stop letting fear decide for you. You can feel the nerves and still speak with honesty. You can feel unsure and still move forward with clarity. That is what builds a character. That is what builds a life of integrity. When you start mastering the courage to ask clearly and directly, your life begins to shift. You spend less time wondering and more time doing. You stop overthinking and start expressing. You stop hiding and start showing up. You find out who supports you and who only stays when you're silent. You learn to stand on your own 2 feet, not because you never fall, but because you know how to rise and ask again. Courage is not something you wait for. It's something you choose. And the choice to speak clearly is one of the most powerful choices you can make. It says you are done playing small. It says you are ready to live in alignment. It says you are ready to be seen. And being seen, fully and honestly, is the foundation of every meaningful relationship, including the one you have with yourself. You won't always get what you ask for, but you will always grow stronger for having asked. And that strength is something no one can take from you. That strength becomes your anchor. It becomes your reminder that you don't have to settle for silence. You can speak. You can act. You can ask. And in that act, you reclaim the power that was always yours. The world does not owe you anything, but it will often give you more than you imagined if you have the courage to ask. Speak your truth. Ask with clarity, and walk away knowing you honored yourself. That is where freedom begins. That is where power lives. That is the art of asking. Chapter 2. Build self-worth, so you believe you truly deserve. There's a quiet battle that many people fight every day, one that doesn't show on their faces, but plays loudly in their minds. It's the inner dialogue that whispers, "You're not enough. You don't deserve it. Someone else is better suited." This battle erodes a person's ability to believe they deserve good things, and over time, it convinces them to settle, stay silent, and step back from opportunities that could change everything. The foundation of asking for what you want, truly asking with boldness and clarity, begins with this: you must believe you're worth it. not in a vague or shallow way, but deep in your bones. Until you believe that, you'll keep shrinking your voice and doubting your right to have more. Self-worth isn't something you buy, earn, or wait for someone to hand you. It's something you decide. It's the quiet agreement you make with yourself to treat your life like it matters. It's the promise to stop discrediting your strengths and downplaying your needs. Self-worth is the root from which every ask grows. Without it, you'll hesitate, you'll second-guess, you'll craft your words with apology instead of power. But when you build your self-worth, your ask comes from a place of knowing, not arrogance, not entitlement, just truth. Many people confuse self-worth with confidence, but they're not the same. Confidence is how you act in public. Self-worth is how you treat yourself in private. It's the way you talk to yourself when things go wrong. It's the way you forgive your flaws. It's the way you respond when someone disrespects your time, your energy, your boundaries. People with high self-worth don't tolerate being mistreated, not because they think they're better than others, but because they know how long it took to honor themselves, and they won't undo that work for anyone. Building self-worth starts with observation. Pay attention to how you speak about yourself, the jokes you make, the labels you use, the way you minimize your accomplishments. These are clues. Every time you downplay your efforts or dismiss your progress, you chip away at your self-image. You teach your brain that you don't deserve recognition, kindness, or celebration. But when you start shifting your language, even slightly, you begin to change your internal reality. Say, "I did my best today," instead of "I didn't do enough." Say, "I'm learning," instead of "I'm failing." This isn't about positive thinking, it's about honest thinking. And honest thinking gives you the ground to stand on when you ask for more. You were not born doubting yourself. Somewhere along the way, someone taught you to. Maybe they told you to stay quiet. Maybe they criticized your efforts. Maybe they made you feel like love was conditional. But their voice isn't your truth, and their judgment doesn't define your worth. The moment you start seeing those experiences as reflections of their limitations, not yours, you begin reclaiming your self-worth. You stop trying to earn your place. You realize you already have one. One of the strongest signs of self-worth is the ability to say no. No to what drains you. No to what doesn't align. No to relationships that pull you backwards. When you believe you deserve peace, growth, and fulfillment, you stop apologizing for protecting them. You stop making space for people who don't value your presence. This is not about being hard or cold. It's about being clear. You can still be kind and firm. You can still be compassionate and boundaried. That balance is where real self-respect lives. To build self-worth, you need proof. Your mind needs to see that you are someone who follows through. That's where daily discipline comes in. Every small promise you keep, to wake up on time, to finish that task, to take care of your body, is a signal to your brain that you matter, that your word counts. Over time, those small wins compound into unshakable self-respect. You don't build self-worth by waiting to feel good. You build it by doing what strengthens you, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. You also build self-worth through how you handle failure. When things fall apart, do you blame yourself completely? Do you call yourself names? Do you give up, or do you step back and learn from it? Do you show yourself the same grace you would give a friend? The truth is, people with strong self-worth fail just as often, but they don't attach their worth to the outcome. They know that a mistake doesn't make them less valuable, it just makes them human. And being human is not something to fix or hide. It's something to understand and grow with. Another part of self-worth is how you receive good things. Some people sabotage success not because they're incapable, but because deep down, they don't believe they deserve it. When someone compliments them, they deflect. When an opportunity arises, they back out. They don't see their own value, so they treat their wins like accidents. But the more you see yourself clearly, the effort you put in, the heart you give, the strength you've shown, the more you'll be able to receive without guilt. You'll stop turning down joy because you've decided you're ready to live with it. Self-worth is also shaped by the people you surround yourself with. If you're constantly around those who belittle, criticize, or dismiss you, it becomes harder to see yourself in a positive light. It doesn't mean you need constant praise. It means you need people who reflect your value, not people who require you to prove it. Choose relationships that encourage your growth, not ones that feed your doubt. When you're around people who respect you, your ability to respect yourself multiplies. The way you treat yourself teaches others how to treat you. If you constantly overextend, over-apologize, or over-explain, people will assume you don't value your time, your energy, or your presence. But when you act with self-respect, when you pause before saying yes, when you ask for what you need, when you show up with calm confidence, others begin to respond differently. They may not all like it, but they will recognize it. And more importantly, so will you. One of the deepest forms of self-worth is knowing that you don't need to be perfect to be deserving. You can be a work in progress and still worthy of love, opportunity, peace, and abundance. You don't have to wait until every flaw is fixed. You don't have to wait until you feel ready. Worthiness is not something to be achieved. It is something to be claimed. The more you internalize that, the more natural it becomes to ask for what aligns with your values and your vision. When you believe you truly deserve something, your ask becomes quiet but firm. You don't need to beg or prove, you simply express. That expression is powerful. It shifts how you move through the world. It allows you to trust your instincts, to pursue meaningful goals, and to walk away from things that don't honor you. You no longer see asking as a risk, you see it as a right rooted not in entitlement but in truth. You are allowed to want more. You are allowed to protect your peace. You are allowed to believe in your worth even when others don't. Self-worth is not about being better than anyone. It's about being faithful to who you are, and no longer pretending to be less, so that others feel more comfortable. The moment you decide to build your self-worth is the moment you stop waiting for someone else to give you permission to be whole. That decision changes everything. It changes how you ask, how you live, and how you rise. Chapter 3. Learn exactly what you want before you ask. Most people struggle to ask for what they want because they don't actually know what that is. They have a general sense of discomfort, frustration, or desire for something more, but when it comes time to speak clearly about what they need, they stumble. They search for words, second-guess themselves, or give vague answers that don't lead anywhere. The truth is, if you're unclear about what you want, others can't help you get it. And more importantly, you can't help yourself. Clarity is not a luxury. It's the first requirement of progress. Until you know exactly what you're aiming for, you'll keep wandering in circles, settling for distractions that feel close enough. Knowing what you want isn't always easy. It requires more than a quick thought or a wish. It demands attention, honesty, and time. It means looking beyond the noise of trends, pressure, and other people's opinions. It means sitting with your thoughts long enough to separate what you've been told to want from what you deeply value. This kind of clarity doesn't come from outside approval. It comes from deep self-examination. It comes from listening to your life and noticing what makes you come alive, what drains you, what challenges you, and what gives you peace. Most people avoid this work because it feels uncomfortable. It's easier to stay busy than to sit still and ask, what do I really need right now? It's easier to copy someone else's path than to face the risk of creating your own. But clarity doesn't come from avoidance. It comes from attention. You must pay attention to how you feel in certain environments, around certain people, when doing certain tasks. Your body and emotions will always give you signals, but most of us are too distracted to hear them. Start paying attention to where you feel calm, focused, and purposeful. These are signs. They point to the kind of life you're meant to build. It's also important to separate what you want from what you think you're supposed to want. Maybe you've spent years chasing goals that never felt right, but you kept going because they made sense on paper. Maybe you chose a path that kept others happy, but slowly wore you down. Maybe you've achieved things that looked impressive, but left you feeling empty. All of this is common, but none of it has to be permanent. The moment you stop living for expectations and start listening to your own truth, things begin to shift. And in that shift, you find space to ask clearly. One powerful way to uncover what you truly want is through daily writing. Not structured or edited writing, just a few honest minutes of letting your thoughts spill out. Ask yourself, what do I want right now? And don't stop at the first answer. Go deeper. Keep writing until something clicks. You'll notice a pattern, a need, or a pull that keeps showing up. That's the voice to follow. It may not be loud or polished, but it's real, and real is what you need when you're trying to build a life that reflects who you are. Another way to gain clarity is to review your past decisions. Look at moments when you felt proud, fulfilled, or aligned. What were you doing? Who were you with? What values were you honoring? Now look at the times you felt off track, drained, or regretful. What was missing? What did you ignore? What did you compromise? Your history holds clues. It shows you what energizes you and what weakens you. Use that knowledge. Let it guide your next move, and be honest enough to admit when a path no longer fits who you're becoming. Clarity also requires space. If your mind is constantly cluttered with other people's problems, non-stop notifications, and mental noise, it's impossible to think clearly. You need quiet, not just silence, but stillness of thought. Take time each day to disconnect. Even 10 minutes of solitude can help you hear what's been buried beneath the noise. In that stillness, ask yourself the questions you've been avoiding. What do I really want in my relationships? What kind of work energizes me? What kind of life would make me feel proud to wake up each day? These questions may not have immediate answers, but asking them creates a shift. It brings attention to the parts of your life that are calling for change. Once you begin to gain clarity, it's important to be specific. I want to be happy is not enough. What does happiness look like for you? What are you doing? Who are you with? What problems are solved? What values are being honored? The clearer your vision, the stronger your ask becomes. Specific goals create direction. Vague hopes create confusion. Instead of saying, I want a better job, say, I want to work in a calm environment where my ideas are valued and I have room to grow. That kind of clarity tells your brain where to focus, and it tells others how to help you. When you ask from a place of precision, people listen differently. It's also essential to recognize that your wants will evolve. What you needed last year might not fit who you are now. That's not a failure, it's growth. But many people cling to outdated desires out of habit or fear. They chase goals that no longer excite them, simply because they've already invested time or energy. But there's no honor in finishing something that doesn't reflect who you've become. It's not quitting. It's realignment. And realignment is what allows you to move forward with purpose. Another important piece is permission. So many people wait for someone to validate their desires before they take action. They seek approval, encouragement, or reassurance before they dare to ask. But you don't need permission to want what's true for you. You don't need consensus to follow your vision. The moment you stop waiting for others to agree is the moment you start moving with freedom. Your clarity is your compass. If others don't understand it, that's okay. It wasn't given to them. It was given to you. When you know exactly what you want, asking becomes an act of alignment. You're not begging. You're not guessing. You're simply expressing what's already clear within you. And when that clarity is real, it carries weight. People feel it. Opportunities open. Momentum builds. But even if the world doesn't respond right away, you've still taken a powerful step. You've honored your truth. You've named your need. And that act alone strengthens you. Knowing what you want brings peace. It quiets the restlessness that comes from uncertainty. It gives you direction when things feel chaotic. It helps you say yes to what matters and no to what doesn't. And most importantly, it helps you stop chasing shadows and start building something solid. That clarity is the beginning of all growth. Without it, you can't make a true ask. With it, you stop settling. You stop wandering. You start becoming the person you were meant to be. Chapter 4. Practice asking daily to build strength and ease. Asking is not a one-time act reserved for special occasions or moments of desperation. It's a daily discipline, a deliberate practice that builds your inner strength and your capacity to express yourself without fear. The more you ask, the more natural it becomes. The less you ask, the more it feels like a risk. Strength in asking doesn't come from waiting for the perfect moment. It comes from showing up every day and exercising the courage to speak your needs with clarity and calm. This habit is not just about getting what you want from others. It's about becoming someone who lives with honesty, purpose, and freedom. Daily asking builds confidence because it teaches you to trust your voice. When you ask regularly, you stop hesitating. You stop rehearsing conversations in your head and start living them out in real time. You stop walking on eggshells and begin to walk with direction. You become less reactive and more intentional. Asking is not about control, it's about communication. It's about taking ownership of your role in every relationship, conversation, and opportunity. Every day, you're given the chance to make a choice. Speak your truth or silence yourself. And every time you choose to ask, you grow stronger in that truth. Most people avoid asking because they fear rejection. They imagine the worst response and decide it's safer not to risk it at all. But in avoiding the question, they avoid their own growth. They trap themselves in uncertainty and hope someone else will read their mind. But strength grows through discomfort. Ease is born from repetition. The more you ask, the more you realize that rejection is not the end. It's simply part of the process. Every no clears the way for a better yes. Every attempt sharpens your skill. Avoiding the ask guarantees you stay stuck. Practicing the ask opens new ground. One of the simplest ways to build the habit of asking is to start small. You don't need to make life-changing requests on the first day. Begin with easy, low-stakes moments where the outcome doesn't carry weight. Ask for help with something minor. Ask a question you've been holding back. Ask for a favor you'd normally do on your own just to avoid speaking up. Each time you do, you interrupt the habit of silence. You train your mind to stop assuming and start expressing. These small wins build the muscle of asking, and like any muscle, it grows through use. Daily practice helps remove the emotional charge from asking. When something is rare, it becomes intimidating. When something is familiar, it becomes normal. Asking should feel as ordinary as breathing. It should not be an act of bravery. It should be an act of living. You're not asking to be demanding. You're asking to participate fully in your own life. You're not trying to force others to do anything. You're giving them the chance to meet you in a real, honest way. And if they don't, that tells you something worth knowing. To stay consistent, set a personal challenge to ask for something every day. It doesn't matter how big or small. What matters is that you practice. Maybe you ask for clarification in a meeting instead of pretending to understand. Maybe you ask for time alone when you're overwhelmed. Maybe you ask for a discount when making a purchase. Maybe you ask for a deeper conversation instead of staying on the surface. Each ask is an act of alignment. It reinforces that your needs are valid, your voice matters, and your life deserves your full participation. Daily asking also sharpens your self-awareness. When you pause to ask, you pause to notice what you need. You begin to observe your inner dialogue and challenge the stories that have kept you silent. You stop assuming that your needs are too much, your timing is wrong, or your voice isn't worth hearing. You see the patterns you've developed around avoidance, people-pleasing, or control. And in that awareness, you gain the power to choose differently. You stop reacting to old fears and start responding from a place of strength. The practice of asking also teaches emotional regulation. You learn to manage the anxiety that may rise before a difficult conversation. You learn to stay grounded when someone responds in a way you didn't expect. You learn to separate your worth from the outcome. Not every ask will lead to a yes. Not every person will respond kindly. But your practice is not about their reaction. It's about your discipline. It's about choosing to live as someone who owns their needs instead of hiding from them. Another benefit of asking daily is that it deepens your relationships. Real connection depends on honest communication. When you make it a habit to ask for what you need, you invite others to do the same. You create a culture of openness, where assumptions are replaced by conversations. You make room for mutual support, mutual respect, and mutual understanding. Without asking, you end up in situations that don't serve you, surrounded by people who don't really know you. But with the habit of asking, you build a life that fits who you are, not who you pretend to be. The habit of asking also frees you from the weight of resentment. When you stay silent, unmet needs build frustration. You begin to blame others for what you never gave them a chance to respond to. You hold grudges for conversations that never happened. But when you practice asking, you release that pressure. You clear the air. You give others a fair chance. And if they don't respond well, you walk away with clarity, not confusion. You've done your part. You've lived in alignment. You've made the ask. To build this practice into your daily life, create a moment of reflection each evening. Ask yourself, did I ask for what I needed today? Where did I hold back? What could I do differently tomorrow? This review creates accountability. It keeps your growth active. It prevents you from slipping into silence. And over time, it reshapes how you move through your days. You become someone who acts, not someone who waits, someone who leads, not someone who hides, someone who expresses, not someone who assumes. You'll notice that the more you ask, the less tension you carry. You stop trying to manage everyone else's reactions and start focusing on your own responsibility. You become lighter, clearer, and more present. You stop overthinking every interaction. You stop replaying conversations in your mind. You move forward with ease because you've said what needed to be said. That peace is worth the effort. That ease is built through practice. It doesn't come from hoping. It comes from doing. This practice is not about perfection. You will have days where you hesitate. You will have moments where you choose silence. That's okay. Growth is not a straight line. What matters is your commitment to return to the ask, to keep showing up, to keep strengthening your voice, your clarity, your presence. Each day is a new chance. Each moment is an opportunity. The habit of asking is not just a technique. It's a way of living fully awake, fully honest, and fully responsible for the life you are creating. Chapter 5. Use silence to let your ask fully land. Silence is not absence. It is presence, deepened. When you make a request, when you ask for something that matters, what you do immediately after is just as important as the words you spoke. Most people rush to fill the space. They explain, justify, soften their request, or backtrack because they cannot sit with the stillness that follows. But silence is where your ask breathes. It's where it lands, settles, and begins to take root. Without it, your words have no weight. With it, your words are given the space to be heard and felt. The discomfort of silence reveals how much we tie our self-worth to other people's immediate reactions. If someone doesn't respond quickly, we assume we said the wrong thing. If there's a pause, we think we need to fix something. But this reveals a lack of patience, not a lack of clarity. When you allow your request to hang in the air without rushing to fill the void, you demonstrate inner security. You show that you trust your voice and that you believe your ask deserves consideration. That calm, grounded stillness is not weakness, it's power. Using silence after you speak signals strength. It shows that you're not desperate for approval, nor are you afraid of rejection. You're willing to stand in your own presence and allow the other person to respond in their own time. That pause can be uncomfortable, but it's also honest. It allows the full weight of your words to be felt. It gives the other person the chance to process what you've said, rather than just react. In that stillness, something real can happen. Something deeper than surface-level agreement or politeness. The habit of filling silence often comes from a fear of being misunderstood. But clarity is not achieved by over-talking. It is achieved by stating what needs to be said, then letting it stand. When you over-explain, you dilute your message. You weaken the very ask you made. You suggest, without meaning to, that it needs to be padded or softened. But when you say something with clarity, and then stop talking, you send a very different message. You say, "This matters. I've said it clearly. I'm not going to dance around it." Silence also gives you time to observe. When you ask and then pause, you get to watch how the other person receives your words. You get to see their body language shift, their eyes focus, their emotions respond. That information is valuable. It tells you where they are, how open they are, what needs to be said next, or what doesn't. If you rush to fill the silence, you miss all of that. You override the space where truth shows up. You trade wisdom for comfort. And in doing so, you lose access to the deeper conversation that was trying to emerge. This doesn't mean you should become cold or robotic. Silence used well is not a weapon, it's a window. It's an invitation for connection, not a strategy for control. It says, "I trust myself enough to stop talking. I trust you enough to listen, and I trust the space between us to carry what I've said." That kind of silence is rare, and because it's rare, it commands attention. It slows things down. It makes people lean in. They sense that something important is happening, and they respond differently because of it. Learning to sit in silence takes discipline. The mind wants to rush forward, to protect itself with more words, but there is a kind of peace that comes from knowing you've said enough. There is clarity in restraint, when you can ask, and then wait. Without needing to chase an answer or defend your position, you show maturity. You're no longer operating from insecurity. You've moved into ownership. You've stopped begging and started leading. There is also a kind of respect that comes with silence. When you speak and then pause, you are giving the other person space to truly think. You are not pressuring them to respond before they're ready. You are not manipulating the outcome. You are allowing the moment to unfold naturally. That respect is felt. It changes the dynamic of the conversation. It invites honesty. It lowers defenses. It creates a space where both sides can be real. Many people are afraid of what silence might reveal. They fear it might expose doubt, discomfort, or lack of control. But silence often reveals clarity. It shows what matters, it highlights what has been ignored, and it gives you a clearer view of the truth. If someone cannot sit in silence with you after you've asked for something important, that tells you something about their readiness, their openness, or their own discomfort. If you can sit in silence without flinching, that tells you something about your strength. You can practice this skill in daily life. The next time you make a request, any request, pause after you say it. Even if it feels awkward, even if the other person doesn't respond right away, stay with the moment. Breathe. Let them have their process. Resist the urge to soften the ask. Resist the urge to clarify it again. Just hold the space. That practice, repeated over time, rewires your nervous system. It teaches you to trust presence more than performance. It shifts your energy from seeking approval to standing in alignment. Using silence well also prepares you for larger moments. When something truly important must be said, when you're asking for a raise, setting a boundary, or speaking your truth, your ability to pause will be one of your greatest tools. It will steady your voice. It will give you clarity in moments of pressure. It will allow you to stay connected to yourself even when emotions rise. That silence is your center. It is the space where your courage lives. The world is loud. People rush to speak, to respond, to react. But the people who move others deeply are often the ones who speak clearly and then pause. Their presence is felt not just in what they say, but in the silence that follows. That silence says, "I mean this. I stand by it. I'm not here to convince you. I'm here to be honest." And that kind of honesty changes things. It pierces through noise. It shifts conversations. It invites truth. If you want your ask to matter, let it breathe. Let it linger in the air. Let the person on the other side sit with it. Don't rush to control how they respond. Don't panic if there's hesitation. Hold your ground. Trust that what you said was enough. Trust that silence is not rejection. It is space. And space is where transformation begins. In the space between words, we find our truest strength. In the silence that follows our voice, we discover the quiet power of presence. Chapter 6. Handle rejection calmly and ask again with clarity. Rejection is not the end of your path. It's a part of the journey. It's not a signal to shrink back, but a moment to rise with more precision. Every time you ask for something and receive a no, you're being given a clear opportunity to either break down or break through. And the choice is always yours. Most people take rejection personally because they confuse the outcome with their identity. But when you stop tying your worth to other people's answers, you begin to see rejection as neutral data. Nothing more. It's not about your value as a person. It's about alignment, timing, readiness, and perception. And those things can shift. Remaining calm in the face of a no is one of the clearest signs that you've matured in your asking. When someone says no to your request, they're simply showing you their current limit, not yours. They're showing you what they can handle, what they're willing to give, or what they understand right now. That's not the end of your progress. It's a checkpoint, a pause, a signal that something might need to be adjusted, rephrased, or timed differently. But it's not a reason to stop asking altogether. The people who succeed are not the ones who avoid rejection. They are the ones who learn to absorb it, learn from it, and keep asking with greater clarity. Each no teaches you something about the situation, about the person, and often about yourself. If you're willing to stay present through the discomfort of rejection, you gain access to powerful insights. You start to notice what you truly wanted, whether you asked in alignment with it, and where your ask could be refined. That refinement is not weakness, it's growth. Sometimes a rejection comes because you weren't clear enough. Sometimes it's because the other person wasn't ready to hear what you asked. And sometimes it's simply because they're not the right person to fulfill your request. But none of that makes your ask wrong. What matters is how you respond. If you crumble every time someone says no, you hand over your power. But if you stay grounded, take a breath, and ask again with sharper focus, you strengthen yourself. You show that your request wasn't built on fragile hope, but on solid clarity. Calmness in rejection is not about pretending it didn't hurt. It's about choosing not to let the pain guide your next move. You can acknowledge the sting and still return to your center. You can feel disappointment without letting it turn into defeat. That steadiness is a practice. It's trained over time. And every time you stand in the face of a no and stay composed, you build that muscle. You remind yourself that your ask has value, even if it wasn't received. When someone declines your request, it's natural to feel the impulse to shut down or withdraw. But if you pause, breathe, and ask yourself what you really wanted from that moment, you can reconnect to your purpose. Rejection doesn't erase the intention behind your ask. It just redirects your energy. It challenges you to get more honest, more specific, and more resilient. That challenge is not a punishment. It's an invitation to sharpen your voice and realign your aim. To ask again with clarity means you've taken the time to reflect. You're not repeating the same ask blindly. You're tuning into what may have been missing the first time. Maybe your tone wasn't aligned with your intention. Maybe the timing wasn't ideal. Maybe the language you used wasn't the clearest expression of your need. Whatever it is, rejection gives you a window into what to adjust. That adjustment is not an act of weakness or compromise. It's a commitment to mastery. Clarity doesn't mean changing your request just to please someone. It means expressing your true desire with greater accuracy. It means refining your words so they reflect your values. And when you ask again from that space, you're not just repeating a question, you're declaring your growth. You're saying, I still believe in this, and I've taken the time to ask more wisely. That kind of repetition isn't stubbornness, it's conviction guided by awareness. The act of asking again after a no builds character. It shows you that you're not controlled by other people's reactions. It teaches you to navigate the world with confidence instead of fear, and it places the responsibility for your life where it belongs, back in your hands. You are not at the mercy of anyone's yes. You are responsible for refining your request and finding the next door to knock on. And when you adopt that mindset, rejection becomes something you can handle, not something that handles you. You can even begin to see rejection as a teacher. It shows you where you're still attached to outcomes. It reveals where your fear of being denied is louder than your belief in your path. And if you're paying attention, it strengthens your inner resolve. When you learn to listen to what a no reveals, not just what it denies, you step into a deeper level of self-awareness. You stop seeing rejection as personal and start seeing it as part of the process. And that shift frees you to keep going with grace. One of the most powerful habits you can build is the habit of asking again without apology. Not with entitlement or arrogance, but with quiet confidence. You're not pushing or begging. You're not demanding. You're offering. You're sharing your ask with care, knowing that each time you do, you sharpen your voice and expand your courage. That kind of repetition is not weakness. It's strength trained through humility. In this practice, timing matters. Just because you received a no doesn't mean the answer is forever. It may mean not now. It may mean not like that. And if you can be patient, if you can return with deeper understanding and better language, you may receive a different answer later. The door may open because you respected the space between tries. Persistence is not just about pushing. It's about listening between the lines, refining your message, and returning when it matters most. The real test of your ability to ask is not how many people say yes. It's how many times you're willing to keep asking when the answer is no. Because those are the moments where your belief in yourself is forged. Not when everything goes your way, but when things don't, and you keep showing up, calmly, clearly, without panic or desperation, just grounded intention. Every rejection you handle with composure adds to your inner strength. Every ask you refine with clarity makes your voice more powerful, and every time you return with quiet confidence, you become more aligned with the life you're building. Rejection will not stop you unless you let it, and if you can rise calmly in the face of it and ask again with deeper wisdom, you've already won. Not just the ask, but yourself. Chapter 7. Speak your ask with confidence and full belief. There's a difference between asking and asking with belief. When you speak your request with confidence, you're not just putting words into the air, you're expressing conviction. You're showing that you stand behind your ask. People respond to that energy more than anything. It doesn't come from arrogance or force. It comes from alignment. When you truly believe that your request is valid, meaningful, and grounded in who you are, it changes the tone of your voice, the rhythm of your speech, and the way people receive you. Confidence doesn't begin in your voice. It begins in your clarity. When you've spent time getting honest about what you want and why you want it, your words carry weight. You no longer try to convince others. You simply communicate. There's a stillness inside people who believe what they're saying. They don't rush. They don't beg. They don't explain themselves beyond what's necessary. They speak with a calm that comes from inner alignment. That calmness is more powerful than volume. It doesn't demand attention. It draws it. Belief is not just about having a positive mindset. It's about grounding your request in a deep sense of truth. When your ask is built on integrity, on values you live by, it gains authority. You're not making a wish. You're stating a direction. You're letting the world know where you're headed and what you're willing to receive along the way. That's a different kind of power. It's not dependent on approval. It's rooted in internal certainty. The way you speak reveals what you believe about yourself. If your voice wavers when you ask, it often means part of you doubts whether you're worthy of what you're requesting. That's why belief must be built long before you open your mouth. It's formed in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when you make decisions that honor your goals, when you follow through on your word, when you live in alignment with your values. Confidence isn't something you turn on in front of others. It's something you earn privately, through daily acts of integrity. When your inner belief is solid, your outer voice becomes steady. You don't second-guess every sentence. You don't shrink to make others more comfortable. You don't apologize for having needs, desires, or direction. You stand in your request with humility, not hesitation. That humility is powerful because it comes from knowing you're not asking from ego, but from purpose. And when you ask from purpose, people feel it. They may not always say yes, but they will respect the clarity and courage behind your words. Speaking with confidence also means being direct. Indirect communication confuses people. When you hint, hedge, or sugarcoat your ask, you weaken it. You make it harder for the other person to understand what you truly want. You place the burden of interpretation on them. But when you're direct, you lift that burden. You make it easy for people to know how to respond, whether the answer is yes or no. Directness doesn't mean being blunt or insensitive. It means being clear and honest, without unnecessary fluff. That honesty builds trust. You don't need to raise your voice to be heard. What matters more is the energy behind your words. When you believe in what you're saying, you speak with presence. That presence is felt. It's the difference between asking from fear and asking from strength. Fear makes your voice small. It tries to protect you from disappointment by making the ask sound optional. Strength, on the other hand, makes your voice firm. It doesn't try to manipulate the outcome. It simply states the request clearly and calmly. The moment you ask with full belief, you release yourself from the need to be accepted. You become more focused on truth than approval. That shift frees you from overthinking. You're no longer trying to read the room or guess what someone wants to hear. You're grounded in your message. You're not adjusting your ask based on how others might react. You're staying loyal to what matters to you. That loyalty builds character, and people recognize it even if they don't always agree with you. Confidence also includes the ability to stay composed when the conversation doesn't go as planned. When someone questions your request or seems unsure, your response matters. If you begin to doubt yourself or talk in circles, it creates more uncertainty. But if you stay steady, answer calmly, and continue to speak from belief, you reinforce your ask. You show that you're not shaken by temporary discomfort. That steadiness makes it easier for people to trust you and engage with your request sincerely. Sometimes the most powerful ask is spoken slowly, not because you're unsure, but because you respect the weight of your words. When you rush through your request, it can feel like you're trying to escape it. But when you take your time, breathe, and speak each word with intention, you create space for your ask to land. That space builds connection. It tells the listener, "This matters to me. I'm not throwing words into the wind. I'm inviting you into something meaningful." Belief in your ask means you've done the inner work. You've faced your doubts, silenced the noise, and chosen clarity over confusion. That inner work gives your voice power. It makes your message clean. And when your message is clean, people feel safe around it. They don't have to navigate mixed signals or hidden fears. They know exactly where you stand. That clarity is rare, and people respect it, even if they don't agree. Your tone, your pace, your presence, all of it communicates your internal state. If you believe you're asking from truth, your voice reflects that. And if you're unsure, people feel that too. So before you speak, settle yourself. Remind yourself why your ask matters. Reconnect to your values. Remember that you're not begging. You're offering an opportunity for connection, support, or action. That mindset transforms how you show up. You don't need to rehearse a script. You need to reconnect to your intention. What do you believe about what you're asking for? What do you know to be true about your capacity to receive it? What would it look like to speak from that knowing, without performance or pressure? Confidence is not about being perfect. It's about being real, and realness has gravity. It grounds your words in meaning. When you speak your ask with full belief, you shift the dynamic. You're not just someone requesting, You're someone leading, not leading through control or manipulation, but through presence and clarity. That kind of leadership is quiet and strong. It says, I trust myself enough to ask. And in doing so, you give others permission to trust themselves too. Confidence is not something you fake, it's something you build. Every time you ask with conviction, you reinforce that belief. Every time you stay true to your message, even when it's uncomfortable, you expand your strength. And over time, asking becomes less about getting and more about expressing who you are and what matters to you. That expression is your power, and when you speak from that place, your words create real change. Chapter 8. Align your actions with what you are asking for. If you want what you're asking for to show up in your life, your actions have to mirror your request. There can't be a disconnect between what you say you want and how you move through the world. Every step you take either strengthens your ask or weakens it. It's not just about the words you speak. It's about the daily decisions you make that either bring your request closer or push it further away. When your behavior contradicts your desire, you create friction, and that friction blocks results. People may hear your ask, but they'll feel the inconsistency, and what they feel is what they respond to. If you ask for opportunity, but you procrastinate, avoid responsibility, or stay unprepared, the gap between your words and your actions becomes obvious. No one needs to be told what you want. They can see it in your commitment, your preparation, and your follow-through. You can't declare a goal and then move like you're unsure. You can't request growth and still cling to habits that keep you small. The world responds to integrity. When your effort lines up with your ambition, you earn respect without asking for it. Alignment is quiet. It doesn't beg for attention. It proves itself through consistency. If you ask for something big, you must carry yourself like someone who's ready to receive it. That doesn't mean pretending to be perfect or faking confidence. It means doing the work. It means cleaning up the places where your behavior contradicts your goals. It means checking your habits, your language, your mindset, and making sure none of them are sabotaging what you say you want. It's not about performance, it's about truth. Because when your actions support your ask, your whole life becomes a message. And that message is hard to ignore. You don't have to convince people to take your request seriously when you already do. That seriousness is shown in the details: how you show up on time, how you prepare for meetings, how you manage your energy, how you speak about yourself and others. These are not small things, they're signals. They show the world what you're ready for. When you carry yourself with discipline and clarity, you attract people who recognize your standard. And they respond not because you asked, but because they see you've earned it. If your words are asking for excellence, but your actions are guided by excuses, you dilute your request. The people who are in a position to help you or support your goal are usually sharp. They can tell when someone is committed and when someone is just hoping things will happen. Hope doesn't replace preparation, and intention doesn't replace effort. You may want it badly, but until you move in alignment with that want, nothing changes. Action is the proof. Ask yourself whether you're moving like someone who believes in their ask. Are your days structured around your goal? Are you investing your time in ways that support what you say you're building? Are you eliminating the behaviors that sabotage your progress? These questions are uncomfortable, but they're necessary. If you avoid them, you risk staying stuck in a cycle of asking without receiving, not because the ask is wrong, but because your life doesn't back it up. There's a kind of peace that comes when you're in alignment. You stop doubting yourself because you know you're doing the work. You don't feel the need to explain your ask over and over because your actions speak louder than any speech. You move differently. You take things seriously, but not fearfully. You become grounded, focused, and deliberate. That energy has weight. It makes people pay attention. And more importantly, it helps you trust yourself. Self-trust grows when your actions match your priorities. It's hard to believe in yourself when you keep letting yourself down. If you ask for clarity, but keep filling your schedule with distractions, you create tension. If you ask for respect, but tolerate disrespect from yourself or others, you send mixed signals. The world responds to what you settle for just as much as it does to what you request. So your standards must rise with your goals. You can't ask for more while acting like less is enough. It's not about being perfect every day, it's about being intentional. Progress comes from consistent alignment, not from one-time effort. You can't ask for success and keep entertaining the same doubts, excuses, and low-effort behavior. You don't need to be perfect, but you need to be serious. You need to show, through your choices, that you're preparing for what you've asked for. And when people see that preparation, they're more likely to say yes. Not because of what you asked, but because of who you've become. There are no shortcuts here. Real results come from real alignment. That alignment gives your ask strength. It's not about saying it louder or more often. It's about becoming the kind of person whose life naturally attracts what they've asked for. That's what changes the game. You're not waiting for permission. You're not chasing outcomes. You're living in a way that makes the outcome inevitable. If your ask is about growth, then your life must reflect growth habits, reading, learning, challenging yourself, stepping outside your comfort zone. If your ask is about leadership, then your behavior must reflect discipline, humility, and service. If your ask is about abundance, then your mindset and habits must reflect stewardship, generosity, and wise action. Whatever you want must be mirrored in what you do, day in and day out. People don't need to see perfection. They need to see consistency. Your habits build your credibility, and that credibility supports your ask in ways that words alone never could. A person who's aligned doesn't need to ask with desperation. They ask with clarity. They move with purpose. They speak with calm assurance. That assurance doesn't come from hoping someone will say yes. It comes from knowing you've done the work and you're ready for what comes next. Alignment also means letting go of things that no longer match your direction. Sometimes the biggest reason your ask doesn't land is because your life is full of things that contradict it. Relationships that drain you, environments that limit you, patterns that distract you. If you're serious about what you want, you'll make the hard choices. You'll say no to what no longer fits. You'll create space for what does. And in doing so, your life begins to reflect the very thing you've been asking for. You can't fake alignment. People can feel when someone's just saying the right words versus living them. If your ask is real, then your actions must make it undeniable. You become the evidence. And when that happens, people listen differently. Opportunities come more naturally. Momentum builds, not because you forced it, but because you aligned with it. Every time you take action that supports your ask, you send a signal, not just to others but to yourself. That signal says, I'm serious, and that seriousness builds momentum. Each aligned step reinforces your belief. It strengthens your voice. It clarifies your direction. It transforms your request from words into reality. That's what changes everything. Chapter 9. Surround yourself with people who support your ask. What you ask for and what you expect from life are shaped by the people closest to you. Every day, your energy is either strengthened or drained by those around you. If you are surrounded by people who dismiss your vision, downplay your desires, or question your ability, you begin to internalize that doubt. You may not notice it at first. It slips in through little comments, quiet reactions, or subtle sarcasm. Over time, it makes your ask feel too big or too unrealistic. Not because it is, but because you've absorbed the limits of the people who don't believe in it. But when you are supported, everything shifts. Your voice becomes clearer. Your goals stop feeling so far away. Your ideas don't get dismissed or minimized. They get heard, encouraged, and sometimes even improved. Support doesn't mean people doing the work for you. It means people who remind you why the work matters. It means having people around who see your worth, even when you doubt it. It means they don't just listen, they champion you. And when your ask is surrounded by that kind of energy, it grows stronger. You don't need a crowd, you just need the right people. One person who genuinely believes in you is more powerful than 10 who pretend to. Quality matters more than quantity. Look around and notice who gets excited when you talk about your goals, who listens without judgment, who challenges you to go further without tearing you down, who makes you feel lighter, clearer, more grounded after a conversation. These are the people who help your ask rise. They don't compete with you, they don't redirect the conversation back to themselves, and they don't feed your fears. They help you stay focused, accountable, and honest. Sometimes, you have to make difficult choices about who you allow close. Not everyone is meant to walk with you. Some people are tied to an older version of you, one who didn't know how to ask, or didn't believe it was okay to want more. If you keep those people too close, they'll keep pulling you back. Not always intentionally. Sometimes they mean well, but comfort is not the same as support. And familiarity is not the same as encouragement. If your ask is important, your environment has to reflect that importance. You cannot build something bold in a space that stays small. Don't wait for people to understand your ask before you protect it. Not everyone will get it. That's okay, they don't need to. What matters is whether they respect it, whether they make room for you to grow into the person who can carry it, whether they show up when things are tough, not just when you're doing well, whether they tell you the truth without crushing your spirit. That kind of support is rare, but once you find it, everything gets easier. You don't have to explain yourself so much. You don't feel like you're fighting alone. You feel seen, and you also have to become that person for others. If you want to receive genuine support, offer it. Be someone who celebrates other people's asks without envy or skepticism. Be someone who holds space for others to be brave. When you become supportive in your energy, you naturally attract others who reflect that back to you. And together, you create a space where everyone rises. A space where asking isn't something to be afraid of, it's something that's encouraged, respected, and even expected. People who support your ask won't always say what you want to hear, but they'll say what you need. They'll push you when you hesitate. They'll call you out when you lower your standards. They won't let you shrink. That might feel uncomfortable at times, but it's a sign they care. They're not trying to change your vision. They're trying to make sure you show up for it fully. That's the kind of push that builds strength. It doesn't tear you down, it lifts you higher. Sometimes support looks like silence, someone giving you space when you need to think, or checking in when they sense you're not okay. It doesn't always come with applause or advice. It's presence. It's consistency. It's someone showing up even when you didn't ask, because they care enough to notice. That kind of support creates stability. And with stability, your ask doesn't feel fragile anymore. It becomes rooted. It becomes something you're allowed to pursue with your whole heart. Building a supportive circle takes time. It takes discernment. You have to be honest about who drains you and who pours into you. You have to stop excusing behavior that chips away at your confidence. You have to stop pretending that someone's criticism is the same as their concern. You have to choose people who are aligned with where you're going, not just where you've been. And you have to do that without guilt. You are allowed to outgrow relationships that no longer reflect your growth. You are allowed to walk away from people who make your ask feel small, selfish, or silly. You are allowed to protect your dreams like they matter, because they do. The longer you tolerate doubt disguised as friendship, the more distant your ask will feel. The faster you build a support system that sees you clearly, the faster your request turns into a reality. Sometimes, the first person you need to surround yourself with is yourself, your inner voice, your self-talk. The way you speak about your own goals when no one else is listening. If you talk yourself down, second-guess your path, or replay old failures, you're not creating internal support. And if your internal environment is hostile, no amount of external support can truly compensate. So your first job is to speak to yourself with the same belief you'd give to a friend. That belief makes room for others to join you. As your ask grows, your support system may need to evolve. What you needed at the beginning may not be what you need now. Be willing to adapt. Be open to letting new people in. Be bold enough to step into new rooms, new conversations, and new spaces where your ask is not only heard, but understood. That expansion is a sign of progress. It doesn't mean you're leaving people behind. It means you're moving into alignment with what you're asking for. You don't have to do it alone. You never did, but you do have to be intentional about who walks beside you. Not everyone deserves access to your goals. Not everyone should hear your ask. Some people only want to listen so they can talk you out of it. Others are just waiting to see if you fail. Protect your energy. Protect your vision. And build a circle that reflects your values, your purpose, and your future, not just your past. When you do that, your ask doesn't just land, it takes root and grows. Chapter 10. Track every ask to build growth and self-trust. Every ask you make is a footprint in your journey toward growth and self-trust. Each time you speak up for what you want, you leave behind a record, not just for others to see, but for yourself. Tracking these asks, reflecting on how they were made, and understanding the outcomes offers a powerful way to strengthen your confidence and sharpen your ability to ask clearly in the future. It is a practice that builds momentum, turning vulnerability into reliability and doubt into evidence of progress. When you start tracking your asks, it transforms the process from something fleeting into something tangible. It is easy to forget what you have requested, how you asked, and what the result was. Writing it down creates a clear map. You begin to notice patterns. What kinds of asks feel natural, which are challenging, which environments support your requests, and where resistance tends to show up. This awareness is essential because growth happens when you see your progress and identify where you need to adjust your approach. Tracking is not about cataloging success or failure as a measure of your worth. It is about being honest with yourself. Some asks will be met with yes, others with no, and many with responses in between. Each outcome is data, not a verdict. It shows you what works and what doesn't. When approached this way, tracking asks becomes an empowering act rather than a source of anxiety. It shifts your focus from fear of rejection to curiosity about what your journey is teaching you. Self-trust grows when you witness yourself being consistent. Asking is a skill like any other, one that requires repetition and reflection. Keeping a record lets you see that you are doing the work. Even when the results are not immediately what you hoped for, the act of asking itself is progress. Over time, you build a personal archive that reminds you how often you have spoken up and how you have handled the outcomes. This archive is your proof of resilience, courage, and growth. The process of tracking also encourages clarity. When you commit your asks to writing, you clarify what you are truly requesting. Vague or half-formed asks become clear and precise when put on paper. This clarity helps you refine your communication and understand your desires more deeply. It forces you to slow down, think carefully, and prepare before you ask, which increases the likelihood of being heard and taken seriously. Beyond clarity, tracking asks invites accountability. When you see your requests listed, you feel a natural responsibility to follow through. It's one thing to say something in passing and forget it moments later. It's another to document it and check back. Accountability isn't about pressure, it's about respect for yourself and others. It shows you are serious about your needs and willing to engage in the ongoing work required to meet them. Another benefit of tracking your asks is that it cultivates emotional detachment. Writing down your requests and their outcomes helps remove the personal sting from rejection or delay. When you externalize the process, you create space to view the situation objectively. Instead of spiraling into self-doubt, you look at the facts: what was asked, how it was asked, what the response was, and what you learned. This perspective strengthens your emotional resilience and reduces fear around asking. When you review your tracked asks regularly, patterns of growth become visible. You begin to notice that your asks become bolder, more direct, or more aligned with your true values. You see that you recover from setbacks faster. You realize that your language improves, your timing gets better, and your confidence deepens. This reflection fuels motivation and reminds you that progress is not always linear, but always moving forward. Tracking also invites intentionality. It transforms asking from a reactive or spontaneous act into a strategic one. You become more deliberate about what to ask, whom to ask, and when. This deliberate approach leads to better results because it respects both your needs and the context in which you operate. Intentionality fosters a sense of control, reducing anxiety and building your reputation as someone who asks thoughtfully and effectively. In addition, maintaining a record of your asks helps you celebrate small wins. It is easy to overlook minor achievements, but they matter. Each positive response is a step forward, a confirmation that your voice carries weight. These small victories accumulate and form the foundation for larger successes. Recognizing and celebrating them fuels your spirit and keeps you engaged in the process of asking and receiving. The act of tracking is not limited to big or formal requests. It applies equally to everyday asks, asking for help, clarification, feedback, or adjustments. Practicing with smaller asks builds muscle memory, making it easier to handle larger ones with grace and precision. Recording these daily asks reinforces the habit of speaking up, making it a natural part of your interactions rather than a source of stress. Using tools such as journals, apps, or simple notebooks can support your tracking habit. Choose a method that fits your style and encourages consistency. The key is regularity, not complexity. The simpler and more accessible your system, the more likely you are to stick with it. Consistent tracking becomes a form of self-care, a ritual that honors your growth and keeps your goals clear. As you track your asks over time, you also begin to build a stronger sense of self-awareness. You start understanding your triggers, What makes you hesitate? What boosts your courage? What kind of responses affect you the most? This self-knowledge is invaluable because it empowers you to prepare better and ask with more confidence. Knowing yourself reduces uncertainty and allows you to act with intention rather than reaction. Finally, tracking your asks is a form of self-respect. It signals that your needs matter and that you are willing to invest time and energy into ensuring they are met. It cultivates a mindset of ownership over your desires and your growth. This ownership is essential for long-term success, because the most important relationship you will ever have is the one with yourself. When you show up consistently to honor your asks, you reinforce trust in your own ability to create change. Building this habit is a journey. It takes patience, commitment, and kindness toward yourself. There will be moments of doubt, moments when tracking feels like a chore, or when results lag behind effort. Those moments are part of the process, not signs of failure. They offer opportunities to deepen your understanding and strengthen your resolve. As you move forward, remember that tracking your asks is not about perfection. It is about progress. It is about creating a feedback loop where courage, clarity, and confidence grow together. It is about turning the abstract idea of asking into a concrete, actionable practice that supports your growth every single day. Each ask you record is a step toward mastering the art of asking, and a step toward becoming the person who knows exactly what they want and has the courage to ask for it.